When Westerners think of voodoo, they usually envision Afro-Caribbean folk magic, practiced by fringe groups in the backwater southern regions of America. A leftover cult religion from the slave trade. It's generally considered to be something from the old world, an outdated, sinister religion that has no relevance in our modern-day society. Dictionaries go so far to describe voodoo as something that is extremely implausible or unrealistic, describing it as a fairy tale, a scary bedtime story. Simply put, nothing real at all. In November 2021, I found myself in Kalimantan, Indonesia. The word Kalimantan is an old Sanskrit word that means burning weather island. Appropriately named since the island of Borneo sits dead center on the equator like a bullseye. A tropical, mineral-rich region where the temperature rarely dips below 70 degrees. As I traveled there, two things appeared again and again. One was the continual mention of the mysterious Suku Dayak tribe, a fearsome, reclusive people that live in the jungles of Borneo. Originally a tribe of headhunters, they live with their own set of laws, and their entire culture is immersed in the world of magic. They are masters of the art and will not hesitate to curse an enemy who crosses their path.
There is a taboo surrounding Dayak people. The moment that you want to know a little bit about them, the first thing people or my parents would say, don't even try to go there. They have a very strict tribe laws and their dark magic and voodoos.
If you're a guy working in Kalimantan, you need to be careful. You cannot play with the Dayak girls because you will have really bad trouble.
Everyone knows you should never cross a Dayak. The second thing I noticed was that the locals would often tell stories about voodoo curses. Frightening stories about mysterious sudden illness or businesses that would financially collapse immediately after a voodoo curse was placed on the business owner. These voodoo curses are set in motion by either a living tribesman or a karmic violation. The locals called it instant karma and delivered it by deceased ancestors of the Dayak tribe.
My friends say he wasn't he wasn't sober. So suddenly he already almost married with this girl, and the family was disagree with that. And he got miracle, so he just canceled the wedding, and he wanna come back to Jakarta. When he come back to Jakarta, in the toilet, when he wants to go to the toilet and want to pee, and suddenly his penis just disappeared. He was saying that to me. He was crying, and that's the scary things in his life. Talk about that, sudden disappear.
One of the major stories that I could tell you that was really, really crazy. It involved about 400 people. And in this sort of a voodoo where everybody collapsed, one person collapsed, the next person collapsed, fainted, or went crazy. Everybody was possessed in one day. And that day was a dark day. Somebody just possessed our school, and we had to close the school. Everybody had to leave. I remember ducking down and being very scared of getting possessed as well, because I looked to my left and my friend just collapsed and being possessed. Yeah, everyone was collapsing.
What was I to make of this? Was this just a collection of ghost stories that the Indonesians tell their children to keep them from misbehaving? You better be good or the Dayak will curse you. Or was there something more to it? Everyone here lives in fear of the Dayaks. The legends are mentioned anywhere you go in Kalimantan. Who are they, and do they really have magical powers? As a spiritually deep person, I was completely intrigued by this mystery. I've always known that the universe is vast, and there are unforeseen forces at work. If I was going to learn the mysteries of voodoo curses, I would need to learn from one of the most feared indigenous tribes, Suku Dayak. Kiano Hardianas is an ordinary villager who grows plants to feed his family. One day after a friend's barbecue, he became extremely sick. His illness progressed so fast that he collapsed in front of his family 2 days later.
Saya mencari napas susah. Mencari napas itu sulit. Itu bahkan kalau orang bilang seperti kita mau mencari napas terakhir dalam hidup. Kemudian saya beberapa kali muntahkan darah atau muntah darah kalau bahasa kami itu.
Saya melihat begitu pucatnya dia, begitu pucatnya dia saat detik-detik sakitnya.
The rumors of a curse haunted Kiano. Rumors swirled that he had a secret enemy, someone who was jealous of him and his life. They said that this mysterious figure had performed voodoo magic and wanted Kiano to die so he could take over his life. Kiano was rushed to the nearest hospital, which was a 2-hour drive over punishing dirt roads. The doctors were baffled. They found that mysterious illness had spread through his entire body. Strange dark patches had eaten into his liver, lungs, kidneys, and heart. He had a barrage of tests as his condition deteriorated.
Secara medis, saya sakitnya kanker, tapi secara kenyataan untuk saya alami tidak mungkin itu adalah kanker.
He was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer and congenital heart failure.
Kok kanker? Dikatakan ini sudah parah, tapi saya baru merasakan sakit hanya 2-3 minggu. Itu aneh menurut saya. Kalau untuk posisinya seperti ini, mungkinnya sakitnya lebih dari 3 atau 5 tahun. Seharusnya untuk sakit seperti ini. Yang kondisinya liver saya itu sudah busuk separuh. Seperti ini. Ini kondisinya pada waktu itu. Ini liver sebelah kiri. Ini sudah busuk.
To make matters worse, he discovered that the enemy was a disgraced Dayak tribesman using illegal voodoo magic on him.
Racun yang menyerang saya itu adalah racun Dayak. Nah, karena saya orang Dayak, saya tahu persis masalah racun itu. Racun yang untuk negatif, racun untuk positif, saya tahu karena saya orang Dayak.
Setelah dokter melihat kondisi Hardi, dokter memutuskan untuk mengambil tindakan operasi. Namun saat itu keluarga menolak. Keluarga lebih memilih untuk pengobatan tradisional suku Dayak.
Kiano knew that to reverse the voodoo curse, he had to journey into the mysterious jungle of Kalimantan for his survival. He had to go to Dayak territory to be treated by Dayak healers, or known to Westerners as a witch doctor. As I heard Keanu's story, I knew I had to find out more about these mysterious Dayaks. All I knew is that they'd been around for centuries. They were protectors of the jungle with their own dialect, customs, and laws. Fierce warriors who walked the backcountry with nothing but poison darts and a mandao. A terrifying 3-foot sword, sharp enough to behead an enemy with one swift blow. I needed to learn the mysteries for myself. I wanted to document and film the Suku Dayak like never before, at the tribe's land. It didn't take too long to understand that filming the Suku Dayak was highly unlikely, especially filming voodoo rituals or ceremonies. We needed permission from the tribal leaders. No Indonesian crew had ever been granted access to film the Dayak in this way. How could I, a Western Caucasian foreigner, gain access? Their rules stated that anyone who wanted onto their land had to pass a mysterious spiritual test. If the ancestors approved, we could get in. If not, we would be turned away immediately. There was no second chance. First, I needed to be approved by someone higher than the head chiefs. They needed to feel out through the realm of their deceased ancestors if my energy was worthy of entry. And somehow, I passed that first test. The Dayak are not easily accessible. The only way to get there was 3 days by boat on the Batang Kawa River. When we arrived at the village, I was pulled towards a ceremonial gate. Members of the tribe proceeded to dress me in unique handmade ceremonial clothes as they motioned me toward a full-sized elephant tusk. It was brimming with a mysterious tonic that I was to consume. Next, they handed me a mandao. This was the Dayak weapon I had heard so much about, capable of cutting wood just as easily as flesh. It is their sword of ultimate protection. A spiritual weapon with ancestor energy connected to it. They led me to a strong branch of bamboo and motioned that I was to cut it in half. I could feel the energy radiating off the sacred sword. I realized that this was it, my last test. If I failed to cut through the bamboo, we would not be allowed on the land. I would be forced to turn around on the spot and go home. If this happened, the secrecy of the Dayak tribe, voodoo, would remain a mystery. As soon as it broke, I could feel the energy change. Like a firm breeze of ancestors embracing us as one of their own. It was magical. An energy shift I have never felt before. It felt as though we were one of them, a Dayak. They invited us in. Could the stories I've heard about the Dayaks be wrong? What kind of people risk their lives in order to rescue a stranger from the clutches of dark voodoo? And how would they treat me, a Caucasian Westerner? As I entered the village after the bamboo test, I saw hundreds of Dayaks who traveled miles to get a look at me. Even the Pasukan Mira, the Dayak Red Army, was there. They had traveled over 100 kilometers on foot or by boat for this special event. Each one of them had a mandao ready to perform a ceremony for us. The chief prayed to invite the ancestors to fill the Red Army with the spirit of unity, sacrifice, and strength. After the ceremony was over, the Red Army soldiers melted into the jungle. We never even saw them leave. We lived with the head of the village for a week. We slept in blankets on the floor because there was no furniture, beds, or air conditioning. Initially, I was led to believe these people were dangerous and ready to attack at a moment's notice. This couldn't have been further from the truth. I found them to be kind, considerate, and environmentally conscious. When I asked the village head if they had any problem with crime, he said no. Everyone respects the land and each other. They rely completely on the earth, land, water, and influence of their ancestors for daily life. They perform ceremonies for everything: weather, welcoming guests, food, or even just gratitude for life. Each morning starts with prayers, and every night they perform elaborate ceremonies to give thanks for their meals. During the nightly ceremonies, the chief would stand before the tribe and allow the ancestor spirits to enter him. As the drums played, he would close his eyes and sway about in a slow-moving dance. He'd glide through the crowd completely blind, elegantly, picking his way through them without tripping. At random, he'd touch a tribe member and they'd accept the ancestor's spirit into them in a ritual known as soul trading. The Dayaks are fierce hunters. They travel the jungle barefoot with only a mandau, a spear, and a blowgun.
Yang paling penting ini pelurunya, damaknya bahasa kami sini.
They carry hundreds of poisons, some for healing and some for hunting. For larger prey, they'll use poison darts to bring them down.
Ini nih damaknya. Di ujung ini ada racun. Ini yang paling berbisa di ujung ini. Masuk sedikit aja ke kulit langsung mati.
Sekarang nih alamnya masih segar, masih nikmat. Kita cari ikan enak di sungai. Berburu kita masih dapat babi, dapat rusa. Hutan masih utuh, tapi sebagian hutan udah digusur.
Unfortunately, when it comes to matters outside of their community, the Dayaks struggle.
Saat ini posisi kami berada dalam perjuangan masyarakat adat Taman Kinipan terkait dengan penyelamatan hak-hak adat, salah satunya itu hutan adat yang berada di desa Kinipan.
Palm oil companies are pressing in on every side to clear the land for farming. The Dayaks are trying to find common ground, but they aren't lawyers.
Ada banyak perambahan hutan oleh investor, oleh pengusaha kaum kapitalis yang cenderung mengabaikan hak-hak kami. Maka bagi kami yang terpenting dan yang tetap kami pelihara adalah adat itu sendiri. Jika hutan itu punah, jika alam ini rusak, maka rusak pula lah adat itu sendiri. Mari semua pihak kita menjaga lingkungan, kita tetap menjaga keseimbangan hidup kita. Karena kalau kita rusak semua hutan ini, bagaimana dengan nasib anak cucu kita? Mereka mau hidup di mana? Kalau kita rusak, kita pun akan rusak. Terutama kepada pihak pemerintah yang punya kewenangan, investor. Mari kita sama-sama dengan masyarakat, bersama-sama masyarakat adat. Yang sampai hari ini kami tetap menjaga itu semua.
The Dayak Longhouse is a place that used to house ceremonies for tribe members only. These houses are built on stilts and usually too old and broken down to use for rituals. Longhouses are usually forbidden to foreigners. This one was left to the village elder to live where she makes hunting and gathering baskets, rain hats, and sleeping mats, all from trees in the jungle. When we approached the elder to ask permission to enter, She took a brief moment as though she was asking the ancestors if we were approved to enter. After a few seconds, the elder nodded and then motioned us to enter. They showed kindness to me and my crew every day. They made us part of their tribe for the short while that we were among them. Keanu's family begged to be seen by the Dayak healers, the only people capable of seeing this level of darkness inside of another human. Specially trained shaman equipped to deal with these types of curses. They agreed to pick him up. His friend carried him to the river's edge for a 3-day trek down the Batangkawa River. During the journey, Keanu was up and down. One moment he'd be on his feet, and the next, he'd collapse in intense, excruciating pain. By the time he arrived at the village, he was barely conscious. He had to be carried off the boat. There's a lot of danger in removing a voodoo curse. If the people in the vicinity are not properly protected, the curse can leap from the victim's body and immediately attach to someone else. This means that spells of protection must be cast first before the real work can begin. If the ritual didn't work, then this was the end. The room was prepared. The tribe locked down the room with the ancestral energy, placing everyone in a protective spiritual bubble. They worked through the night, using ancestral ritual prayers, trapping the darkness, pulling the curse from his body, and casting it into the universe. Or as the Dayak say, sent back to God for a moment of reckoning.
Baik, mencabut penyakitnya.
After an intense night at death's door, Keanu was saved.
Ibu apa? Banyakan penyakit jenis gula ini datang ke aku. Baik pahala mah. Jadi penyakit gula ini memang udah kucabut. Buakan ke ujung tolu rantau buak, jadi tidak bakalan datang lagi. Jadi asalkan jangan pula melanggar pantang kemalinya lagi. Baik. Aman melanggar pantang kemalinya lagi. Mungkin borat obatinya untuk obat ai. Bahkan, nah jadi ingat mah panti pemalinya yang udah kukesahan ke gulatai jangan dilanggar lagi tam. Tahu? Nah, berterima kasih nih bilanya ke aku nih bayar sebagai jalap enggak. Kasem yang 2 ta. Amang kan aku tekan Adam pekorasnya tai. 2 boras, pekoring pemata. Nah jadi amanya keakunan mah Cukup cuma kasih yang dua tanya menan. Aku mau buat ini, kan yang dua ta kita. Jadi ama asa sehat menan.
Aku asalnya agak bisa sehat nih. Sebab
Ya.
kuam berkosih apa sebab kuam.
Ya. Syukur.
Dampak dari pengobatan tersebut sangat relevan, sangat positif. Dalam 2 hari, Hardi berangsur-angsur pulih.
Setelah beberapa bulan kemudian saya berobat, kemudian saya merasa 1 minggu kurang lebih 1 minggu saya sembuh. Dan saya tahu siapa yang membuat saya sakit, saya tahu. Nah, di situ saya merasa titik terendah dalam hidup. Di situ saya bisa menghargai hidup. Itulah, kalau kita hidup, apapun yang orang lakukan, kita harus bersabar. Kita tidak boleh membalas, biarkan saja, karena mungkin karma berlaku dan Tuhan pun mungkin tidak tidur, karena Tuhan mungkin punya cara, punya jalan untuk membalas orang tersebut. Tapi dari pribadi aku, saya tidak membalas. Biarkan Tuhanlah yang saya inilah kepada Tuhan, saya serahkan kepada Tuhan. Untuk intinya saya ikhlas, meskipun saya harus dibuat seperti itu dengan titik terendah. Jadi mungkin itu sedikit dari saya, kesaksian saya, pengalaman saya untuk bahwa magic itu ada. Apalagi di tanah Kalimantan, magic itu ada.
When Keanu returned home, he was transformed. The Dayak healing worked. His cancer was gone. 2 months later, Keanu's enemy who performed the deadly voodoo was found dead. No one knew what killed him. He was found alone in his home with no signs of foul play. His body just stopped working. Like magic,